everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Susie Onoshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Miss Solomon, and she's the founder of the datingtruth.com, and I'm so excited to have her here today because we're talking about the 5 dumb mistakes that women make with men. And before we jump into these 5 mistakes, Miss Solomon, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you and how you got into the dating industry.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm so excited. I got into the industry really by accident. I started dating a lot in my 20s, and I went on a lot of really great dates. I met a lot of really great guys, and I thought, I can teach other people how to do this. I can teach them how to attract the right people and go on great dates. So that's how it all got started.
Because you were so good at it, you wanted to teach everyone else what you knew, right?
That's right.
Well, that's great. Well, let's jump into the first dumb mistake, which is you say that thinking you shouldn't be too beautiful.
Right. I think women fall into this idea that you can be smart, you can be the girl next door, or you can be beautiful and the bombshell, but you're going to be dumb. And that's not true. There are beautiful and intelligent women out there. And playing into your beauty, being obsessed with makeup or feminine things, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're dumb. It doesn't mean that you aren't educated. It just means that you're well-rounded. So I think with intelligent women, you can be both. You can be smart and beautiful.
Exactly. Ladies, you can be the total package.
That's right.
Okay, so the second biggest mistake you say is always having to prove a point. So I agree with this totally. So tell us more about this.
Right. Well, when you're first meeting a guy, or even if you're on a first date, sometimes we can be a little bit one-upping, or we have to show that we're right, or we have to show that we know everything. And you really want to get to know the guy as well. If he has a point you don't agree with, just let him make it and figure out maybe how he got to that conclusion in the first place. You know, if you know the answer and if you know that you're right, that's great, but you can't make him feel bad about it. So I think if you're just getting to know somebody, don't worry about being right. Just worry about getting to know them.
Exactly. And it's about realizing that everybody has differences of opinion. You may have one opinion, he may have another, but it doesn't mean that you have to prove to him that you're actually right. Just accept that he has a different opinion about it and talk about it.
Right.
But yeah, that's actually, I hear that a lot, and it's a big turnoff to a lot of men because I've interviewed a lot of men, and a lot of men will tell me that when a woman becomes argumentative or is like, no, I'm right, or is confrontational, it's a huge turnoff, and it's actually a deal breaker.
Right.
So that is very true. That's a big mistake. Okay, so the third biggest mistake is you talk about credential dropping.
Right. Leading with your degrees, and it's wonderful. It's a great accomplishment. I think there are a lot of educational triumphs that women can be proud of, but it's not always the most passionate topic of conversation where you went to college or what you do for a living. So I think mentioning all the degrees that you have is more for you to sound impressive than it is to actually connect with the guy that you're talking to. So I always say, limit those types of topics that maybe are a little bit more rigid and they're not very sexy, and talk about the things that you're more passionate about.
Exactly. And I'm just going to add to that, ladies, about don't job title drop either, because,
Right.
No guy, I know you may have worked really hard to get at the level you're at, whether you're a CEO or you're a president of a division or whatever it is, or a managing director, but again, it's a yawn factor to a guy. He could care less. It's not to say that he doesn't care about your job, but it's not going to impress him that you climbed the corporate ladder or whatever it is. Ms. Solomon is absolutely right that men are more interested in what your passion and interests are and where you're connecting on a common ground. And you're not going to connect on a common ground on, what your degree is or what your job title is. I mean, you could, but then it's going to turn into business, and you don't want business. You want a romance, right?
Right.
Okay, so your fourth tip is about the inability to give a good soundbite.
Right. Um, we all know that women talk a lot, But sometimes you don't have a lot of time. You might meet a guy in the line at Starbucks, you might meet him on the run at the gas station, and you have to be able to say the most interesting things about you in a really short time. And some women just, they have to, they're a little long-winded. I am too. So you have to be able to get that elevator pitch of what's great about you and how to be able to tell about yourself in a very small amount of time, because sometimes you may not have a whole date, or maybe you just have 5 minutes to get to know the guy.
That is so true. And I will tell you, ladies, that like I said, I've interviewed thousands of men, and they say that's a big complaint, is that women will just talk, 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 and they don't even like come up for air, and they're like just there listening, and men really don't like that. So in addition to putting out that little soundbite, ladies, you also have to be a good listener. If you find that you're dominating the conversation, then you got to start asking him questions about himself and things like that, because you want to have an equal balance, because it's a turnoff to men if they're doing all the listening and you're doing all the talking.
Right.
Okay, so your last biggest mistake is, this is big, is putting down other women. So Tell us more about this.
No matter how intelligent you are, it is never a good idea to try to act better than other women because you are being competitive. If you see another woman, and this has a lot to do with how people look, making assumptions. Some women who are not more intelligent, but some women who have degrees or a certain job might think a woman who is dressed a certain way isn't intelligent or isn't smart, or we might judge people's behavior. And I think putting other women down or acting like somebody isn't as good because they don't have the same job or the same degree or the same title is very unattractive to men.
Yeah, and ladies, I want to give a specific example of this, is when you're out on a date, and I think every woman has done this at least once in her life. She may not do it anymore, but is where a woman walks in and she's wearing a certain outfit, and you point it out to the guy and go, oh my God, look at what she's wearing. She looks horrible, or saying something like that. That, even if he may agree with you, it still comes across really bad to a guy.
Right.
So these have been some awesome tips. So ladies, stop making these 5 big mistakes because you're turning off men. So Miss Solomon, tell our audience how they can find you.
You can find me at thedatingtruth.com. It is my website, and I have more tips on dating, how-tos, and attraction.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Miss Solomon, for being on the show, and thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you would like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com, and if you would like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns him off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.